What's going on everybody, my name is Rico, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my channel is about vlogs, series and tutorials, and in this episode I'm going to show you guys how to work on the sky using Darktable. Right, so I came home from work, I was just minding my own business, I was cooking dinner for myself, then I was walking the dog, and then suddenly this happened. Mark Adams responded to the Facebook group. He left a message saying, bringing the sky down, I use various things from the usual raise, lower, shadows, highlights to masking the area and dropping the exposure and dehazing and even adding in some local contrast. Mark, thank you for adding this to the post that I made on Facebook. It's a post that you guys can find on the Darktable Facebook group. It's a post that I've made with a picture of mine that you guys can edit. I've posted it on Reddit as well, and I've posted it on my community page as well. So please have a go at it. I would love to see you guys' results. His response came due to the fact that Andrew Shutt left a message. He said, how do you bring the skies out? I'm new to Darktable and struggling really. I have watched some videos too. So Andrew, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do this. So hopefully it'll help you. So let's start. And this is the image that I've put up on the Facebook group and on Reddit and on my community page as well. I haven't done any edits to it. This is the original raw file. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick edit. So I'm going to activate the filmic. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to brighten it up a little bit. I'm going to adjust the white point to brighten it up. I'm going to adjust the black point just a little bit. And I'm going to adjust it some more by increasing the contrast. So that already gives a little bit of a different look to this image. Let me show you guys before and after. So here's it switched off and here it's switched on. So it's got a lot more contrast. What I want to do is I want to increase the saturation a little bit. You can do so by increasing this, or what you can do is you can hit this button, preserve the chrominance, and that'll give you a lot more saturation as well. I'm going to keep this as is because I think this looks pretty fine. So let's close down the filmic module. And now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the sky. And there's a couple of ways to do this. One of the ways is by painting over the sky with a brush and then start to adjust it accordingly. You can use a gradient mask. So let me show you guys by going to the exposure module. For that we're going to more modules, and then we're going to find it in a list down below. Exposure, there we go, we're going to click it. Now it's got the star in front of it, which means it's put in my favorites. So let's close that one down. Let's open it up, let's activate it. This is the module that we're working on right now. And what I want to do is I want to add a drawn mask and I want to add a gradient filter. So let's click over here, and then the dark gray point is what will be affected and the light gray point won't be affected. Now let's increase the exposure. Now the sky became a lot more clearer, and if we decrease the exposure, the sky is becoming even more dark than it was before. When can this come in handy? Let me show you guys. I'm going to adjust it a little bit. I'm going to add another gradient filter by hitting the control and then clicking it. I'm going to click inside the image, but I want to turn this. So for that I'm going to hit the control and then hit this point and then just turn it like so. And now as you guys can see, let me move it around a little bit. Let me move this around a little bit. What this has done is that it has darkened the sky, it has darkened the floor, and it's kept the middle pretty clear, pretty bright, which means that all the attention will go to the middle of the image. So that's a great way of editing this photo real quick. It's not something that I want to do. So let's click this symbol to show the masks. I'm going to delete this mask by hitting the right mouse button. There you go. I'm going to keep this mask as is. Let me increase the exposure a little bit. Here we go. Now let's close that one down. I think that looks pretty fine. Let me show you guys before and after. So here's the before, here's the after. It's a bit more clearer and it just looks better with the image overall. So Mark also said he used the shadows and highlights module. So let's activate that one. Let's see what happens. You see that something popped, and that pretty much has to do with the shadows, because if I drag it to the right some more, you see that it's increased some more, and if I drag it to the left, now this looks absolutely horrible. So let me reset that by double clicking it. Same goes for the highlights. This image doesn't have a lot of highlights, as you can see over here. So if I drag this to the left or if I drag this to the right, it doesn't really have an effect to the image. You saw a jump over here and you saw a jump over here. So let me show you guys once more, reset it, there you go, you saw a change over here. If I drag the white point to the right, it becomes more bright, and if I drag it to the left, it becomes more dark. So let me reset that as well. What we can do is we can use this as a mask. So let's go to a drawn mask, gradient, let's add it, there we go. There's another way to do this. Let's delete it by hitting the right mouse button, and then let's go to the no mask used drop down menu, and then click exposure, and it'll use the same mask as you're using with the exposure module. So let's drop down the highlights and let's drop down the shadows a little bit. There you go. Now it looks a bit more moody than it was before. So let's close that one down. And another module that he used was the local contrast and the dehaze. So let's find the haze removal module, which is over here. Let's click it. And now let's open it. There we go, activate it. And it's very strong. We can change this by hitting this point over here and let's halve it. Or what we can do is, let's put it back, let's press this button uniformly and then just change the opacity. So let's change it to 25%. You see, and now the effect isn't as strong as it was a minute ago. In this case, I want to target the sky. So once again, drawn mask, no mask used, shadows and highlights or exposure one. There you go. And now the changes are only being applied to the sky. If you want to know exactly what is being affected, all you gotta do is scroll down and click this yellow symbol right here. That goes for all the masks, but as you can see, only the sky is being targeted. Now let's say this doesn't look as good as you want to. You can blur out the mask to make it fade out a little bit. You can feather it, there we go. Let's click this yellow symbol again. And another thing that he used was the local contrast one. So for that, I'm going to open up the local contrast, activate it. Going to put this on quite a lot, 250%. That's a very strong effect, but once again, we're going to add the same mask. There we go. And now we have targeted the sky. Another thing that I want to do is I want to get rid of the noise. So for that, I'm going to use the denoise one. Click on the first instance. Let's duplicate it. Let's click on the second instance. And now the noise is gone from the sky. But everything else became a little bit soft as well. So let's just do the same thing. Let's open up the first one. Let's click this symbol right here. Let's go to here and then local contrast. Let's close that one down. And let's do it for the second instance as well. And let's close that one down. So now the changes are only being applied to the sky. You see that noise is gone and everything else is nice and sharp. So that's one way to edit this image. That actually was how it looked in real life, apart from the cloud on the right side. It was a very cloudy and a very sunny day at once. It was very weird, but eventually we even had to run to the car, otherwise we would just be all covered in rain and stuff like that. So, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo everything, and then I'm going to just edit it as I usually do in my tutorials. So let's go to the first filmic one. Let's go to the second one. That's even better. There you go. Let's compress the history stack. And now let's start working on the image. So what I want to do is I want to put the emphasis on the middle. So the easiest way to do that is to use the exposure module. So let's open that one up, activate it. I want to add a mask, so drawn mask. I want to add an ellipse because I think that's the most easiest shape to use. So let's drag this. There you go. Let's drag it. There we go. I want to decrease the feathering. So for that, I'm going to hit the shift and scroll the mouse wheel button away from me. Maybe change the angle just a little bit. Now let's see what happens if I increase the exposure. How about by a half? That might be a little bit too much. Yeah, that's too much, so let's feather it. Let's blur it. No, let's not blur it, but let's feather it by quite a bit. And I want to ease this a little bit. Here we go. I think that looks pretty fine. Let's click the symbol. Now let's show you guys before and after. So let's deactivate it. And now let's activate it. Your attention is immediately being drawn to the middle of this image, which is awesome because that's exactly what I want to do. I want to target the sky as well. I think it looks very dark, but it's very noisy. So I'm going to get rid of the noise in a minute. But for now, I want to recrop the image a little bit. So let's just use a crop and rotate module. There we go. I've put it on 16:9. That's probably the one that I want to use right now because I can use this as a thumbnail. And what I like is that on the rules of thirds is this church. So I'm going to keep this as is. We've got just as much sky as we do ground. So let's double click it. Now the image has been cropped. I think this looks better than the original. Let's have a look. There we go. Yeah, that looks awesome. So let's close that one down. Another thing that I want to do is I want to darken the lower part over here. So let's go and use another instance. And then draw mask, and let's use a gradient one. There we go. Let's click it. Control. Click the black point or the dark gray point. Let's turn it around. Let's drop the exposure by the same. So by a half. And I think I need to feather it a little bit. Let's see. Might want to move it upwards a little bit. Let's blur it a little bit. There we go. So let's deactivate that one and let's close it down. And I still want to do something with the sky. So let's use a tone curve module for that. Let's activate it. But I want to use a mask. I'm not going to use a gradient mask because you guys already know how that looks. I'm not going to use a brush to paint over the sky because that's too easy if you ask me. In this case, I'm going to use a drawn and parametric mask. So let's click it. Let's first make a drawn mask. So I'm going to make some points over here. There we go. I'm going to go around the sky or around the tower, excuse me. Here we go. Now let's go over here and then hit the right mouse button to close the mask. I'm going to show you guys the mask. So this is the masking area, but I'm going to use the parametric mask as well. I'm going to use the eyedropper. I'm going to place it inside. So here's where the pixels are. I want to use a broader one, so I'm going to use area. I'm going to select the area over here. So that way I know that this is the part that I want to affect. There we go. Let's move these sliders inwards. Here we go. Let's feather it and maybe blur it a little bit. That's it. That looks a lot better. So let's deactivate that. And now let's just drag this one up to brighten the sky a little bit without actually blowing the highlights. So that's very important. Let's drag this one down. There we go. Let's up the shadows a little bit. There we go. I think that looks absolutely amazing. And now what we need to do is we need to get rid of the noise, which is funny because this is shot at ISO 400, which means there shouldn't be a lot of noise, but I guess there is. So let's open that one up. Let's activate it. And somehow it didn't recognize a profile. Sometimes it does. I don't know why that is, but let's just use the first instance, the chroma one. And now let's duplicate it. And let's use the second one for the luma. And now it's very soft, as you can see. So what I want to do is I want to open this one, the first one. Make sure it's the first one. Let's hit the right mouse button on opacity. Let's put it on 60%. And now the image is less soft. And we can counteract it as well by activating the sharpening module. And I think that looks absolutely amazing. The sky is nice and clear right now. The emphasis is on the middle due to the use of the exposure module. We have darkened the floor a little bit just to make sure that this doesn't draw too much attention. And that's it. I hope you guys like it. Let me know in the comment section down below. These were a couple of ways to change the sky using Darktable. There are plenty more that I won't go into today, but for now I guess this will do for you guys. If you guys got any suggestions for tutorials, please email me. If you want me to review your image, just email me to them and I'll see what I can do. I'll make sure you get a reply from me. And for this week, I guess there's just one more thing left for me to say, which is make love to the like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that bell button to be the first to be notified when I drop in a video. And until next time, doei!